Good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I am Ken Walls and I'm your host, and I have a very special guest on today. I know this guy through social media, and we actually are kind of neighbors. He lives not too far from me, like maybe 30, 45 minutes. But I want to welcome my buddy Ken, Mr. Biz Wentworth, to the show. Ken, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ken, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I may be biased, but I think you have the very best first name ever.
I was going to say the same thing about you. Funny how that works.
I know. So you live right down the road from me.
Pretty much. Yeah, I said probably half hour, 45 minutes, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Or actually, probably not even that, because I can't remember if are you still over in Powell?
No. No, I'm up north of there.
Up north. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But so I started this show a couple of years ago now to help people have a breakthrough, because we all get stuck in life and don't know how to fix it, figure it out, work it out, whatever. And so this is about helping people break through the problems they're having in life. So let's start with you telling everybody where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised in the booming metropolis of Mingo Junction, Ohio. So shout out to the Mingo Indians there, which our high school is not even in existence anymore. It's been consolidated with a sister school, but small steel mill town in Eastern Ohio, right along the border, about 35 minutes from Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
Born and raised there. First person in my family to go to college and all that. I went to the big city to come to Columbus to go to school at Capital University. Nice. But yeah, it was blue collar. I mean, it was pretty much the career path there, especially for men, was you graduated high school, you got into the mill, you worked in the mill for 40 years, and you retired. And that's how my grandfather, my dad, my uncles, I mean, everybody, that was just sort of the way of life. And I figured out pretty quickly. I'll tell you, it was funny. My dad snuck me into the mill when I was in 7th or 8th grade. Because, of course, when you're a little kid, you want to be what your dad is, right? So I'm like, yeah. I'm going to work in a mill. My dad snuck me into the mill and showed me how terrible it was. And I'm sure he showed me the bad part, the worst parts of it. But he was like, you see that guy over there? Do you want to do that for 40 years every single day of your life?
So he was trying to encourage you to not do that.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Good. Go, Dad. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. So you went to school over there, high school, all that, and then ended up at Capital University. Now that's pretty well known for a law school, though.
Yeah. So my undergrad's in accounting. Went over there primarily from a sports perspective. Wasn't good enough to play Division I basketball, so I wanted to go over there. Yeah. But I loved it. I mean, I wanted to have a small private school. A lot of my friends were going to Ohio State, so I was close to them. I wanted a small school, but I wanted to be close to a big enough city to where I could do internships and things like that, which ended up being very fortuitous and very, very helpful for me, because I was able to do some internships while I was at Capital, which helped propel my career and all that good stuff. So ended up being a good decision for me.
So after and I assume you graduated college.
I did. Yes.
Okay. So after college, what'd you do after? And what was your degree? Was in accounting?
It was in accounting. Yeah. So again, great advice I got from the person I had an internship with. My original major was business administration, because I knew I wanted to do something in business, but I didn't know exactly what. Right. So I thought business administration is perfect, right? I'll take a little bit of everything. And he said, "That's awful. Don't do that."
Who said that?
This guy I had an internship with, Roger Lossing. I'm still connected with him. Helped me tremendously, because he said, "Here's what's going to happen. If you want to do something in business, go into accounting." And I'm like, I'm not, like, that's just too much for me. It's too much in the weeds, everything. He said, "No, you don't understand. Business administration, you'll be a jack of all trades, master of none."
Right.
So he said, and I remember this he said it very bluntly. He said, "So you're going to get out of school. You're not going to have enough accounting classes to get a job in accounting. You won't have enough to get a job in marketing, because you only take a couple classes. So you only take a couple classes of all these disciplines. So you won't have enough in any one to get a job in that discipline." He said, "So you know what you're going to do? you're going to be a manager at Payless Shoes. That's what you're going to do with your college degree.
Oh,
and there's nothing wrong with that. But he said you don't need to go to college to
yes,
be a
there
manager.
is. I disagree. There's a lot wrong with that.
No, I'm saying he said, look, if you're going to go to college, you could become a manager at Payless without going to college. Don't waste your time going to college if that's what you want to do.
Right.
But if you're going to go to college, make sure that's something meaningful and you're going to be able to do something with your degree when you get out, not just, to take a job that you could, get otherwise. So,
yeah, sure.
So I changed to accounting reluctantly, but again, absolutely fantastic advice because he was exactly right. I got out of school, worked a couple years in accounting. Again, knew that really wasn't really the long-term path for me, but then used that to move into finance and then ran some operations groups, was an investment analyst, did all kind of different things, all because I had that good base of accounting behind me. And at some point while I was going through my career, went back, got my master's degree in financial management. And
what management?
Financial management.
Okay. Jeez. Wow. So and this is where were you working? Like,
I was working at, so this is another part of my background, right? So growing up in that steel mill town where you get a job, you work there for 40 years and you retire. That was my mentality coming out of college, is I wanted to find a place where I could work and work there forever and retire. Again, completely counter to the way, the job market and careers have evolved recently, but that was my mindset. So I came out of school, had a couple job offers, ended up working at Bank One here locally in Columbus because I knew that was a big company. I could probably stay there and bounce around, do different things, et cetera. And then left there, went to JP Morgan Chase actually before they bought Bank One, and ended up, going through the paces there again, doing all those different sorts of roles, all under that same umbrella of JP Morgan Chase. Ended up getting up to where I was in the top 3% of people in the company. And that's when I decided I was going to leave.
Good Lord have mercy. So you made it to, and this was JP Morgan, Chase, and you made it to the top, so to speak.
Yeah. Ironically enough, so I was in the top 3% when my boss told me that he was going to promote me into the top 1%.
Jeez.
Through a circle of other events, I was like, I got to leave. This is not, I could have a bigger impact. I could help more people. It's not going to happen here. And I knew they were going to put more pressure on me to relocate outside of Columbus and move to London or New York City. And, we've got 3 kids. It's like, that wasn't really in the cards. I didn't want to do that. And so I decided at that point that I'm going to leave. So the next time I went back to New York, I sat down with my boss and I said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm going to resign. And he got up and he closed the door and he's like, that's not usually the conversation I have when I tell someone I'm going to the top 1% of the company, right? And so I explained to him my logic behind it. And I said, I'd had 2 revenue producing ideas and then that 3 or 4 month period right before that had been shelved because of some bureaucracy, red tape, et cetera. And it's like, I knew that was going to continue to happen. And so, it was just frustrating. And again, I was like, I know I've developed this expertise. I know I can help more people. And by the way, Ken, I didn't even know what I do now was a thing because I was so ingrained in the corporate world. So I didn't even know what a fractional CFO was or anything like that. So,
wow. So you, you had to be, I would think, how long ago was that you resigned from Chase?
2015.
You had to be way into 6 figures.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They paid me well. And I have nothing bad to say. The company was fantastic with me. And even when I exited, he kept me around. My boss kept me around. I said, well, I told him, I said, I don't even know what to do next. So I'll stick around as long as you need till you find a replacement. That was in March. And I ended up not leaving. I resigned effective December 1st. He kept me around. I got to the point where I was doing absolutely nothing. And I kept telling him, but I couldn't move forward and do anything because of my fiduciary relationship ties to JP Morgan. Yeah. And so it was actually getting frustrating for me. Well, he was keeping me around so he could pay me a bonus, which he didn't tell me that.
Wow.
Yeah. So complete opposite of what you typically hear from the big companies, right? And that's why he literally got a hold of me in the middle of November. And he said, so are you ready to resign? And I'm like, yeah, I've been ready to resign like 6 months, And he said, well, send me an email, a resignation, just made a couple sentences and make sure it's effective December 1st. And I'm like, That's oddly specific. As a matter of fact, I think it was even like that was a Sunday or something.
Wow.
So I'm like, that's really weird. Well, I had to be on the payroll on December 1st in order to receive a bonus.
Dude.
And so he didn't even tell me then.
Wow.
So the middle of January, he and I still communicated pretty often. And middle of January, my cell phone rings, and it's my old boss. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on. He said, hey, you're going to notice next week there's going to be a deposit in your account. I gave you a bonus for your contributions. He said, it's not your normal size bonus, but you helped us so much, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this never happens, right? You never hear this kind of stuff happening.
And not to mention, I've had some people on the show that talked about they left a 6-figure job and they, to go out and pursue. I mean, dude, most people that are making, I'm going to assume 250, 300 or so a year is got to be in the or so. I said or so.
Right.
Dude, that's a serious comfort level. I mean, it really is, right?
Yeah, and the interesting part is I've always been very entrepreneurial, and so I always knew that I wanted to do my own thing at some point. But what happened was that was early in my career, and so I figured early on, I'm like, I got to get some experience, learn about the world, the business world, everything, right? And then I got to the point where my career accelerated so quickly that now I'm making a good bit of money. So now I have a huge income to replace, right? Whereas when I first started out, I wasn't making crap. It would have been easy to replace that income. So I got sort of over that hump very quickly. And that's like, well, geez, how can I replace this? Like, this is not good. But having been in that position for long enough, had accumulated some wealth and things like that to where, I had some cushion and all that kind of stuff to be able to finally get back over the hump again to where I could say, okay, I've got some reserves here that I can figure out what I'm going to do. And
what did your wife say?
Funny you should ask that, Ken. So when I decided
she went and saw an attorney.
So I left. So my boss was on the 48th floor, and I left his office. And on the elevator ride down, this is in Midtown Manhattan, Park Avenue. I had to leave the building for my next meeting. So in the elevator ride down from the 48th floor down to the ground floor, that's when I decided I was going to resign. And so I get to the airport that night. I'm at LaGuardia, called and told her, I said, Mark's going to put me up for managing director. She's like, oh my gosh. I should mention my wife's a nurse, complete non-business, person. And she said, oh my God, your hard work. That's fantastic. And I said, by the way, I'm going to leave. And she said, so, oh, your plane's leaving. You got to go. I'm like, no, I'm going to resign. Next time on the end of the phone, she said, did you get to the airport early? Have you been drinking? I said, no. And she said, well, how about you take a nap on the plane ride home? And let's talk about this when you get home, because something doesn't sound right here. So, and once I explained it to her when I got home, she said, what are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. I said, but I know I'll figure it out,
Did she know you would figure it out?
I think she did. Yeah. I mean, she was very supportive. She didn't hesitate whatsoever. She said, if that's what you need to do, do it. And I've been able to accomplish some things. I've was a competitive power lifter and broke some world records. And so I know I know a lot of people, I call it faking the funk. A lot of people talk the talk, don't walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people say, man, I'm committed. And they're not really committed. I mean, they're 75% committed. I know what it's like, and I know what it takes to be truly all in committed on things. And I don't say that in a bragging way. I just mean, I knew that I had that in me from not only my business career, but from my athletic competitive career of making the necessary sacrifices to be successful. And so I knew that, and I draw upon those all the time, of the fact that I was able to break some world records, and even silly things like when I was a competitive powerlifter, they have weight classes, and you weigh in 24 hours ahead of time. I figured out really quickly that was a huge advantage. So let me figure out how to manipulate my weight the best I can. I got to the point where I lost 17 pounds in 24 hours one time making weight.
What?
Yeah. So
how?
It's ancient Chinese secret, Ken.
Good Lord, 17 pounds in 24 hours?
24 hours. And I regularly would cut between about 12 to 14 pounds. But that particular time, I had to drop 17 in a day. But knowing that the discipline it takes to do that, and knowing that I had that and that I have been able to tap into that, I'm like, I know when I figure out what I'm going to do, I'm full steam ahead and I'm going to make it happen. I mean, I just knew it.
I was all proud of dropping 29 pounds during 75 days. Holy crap, man.
Well, it's temporary. It's temporary. It's all temporary, right? So it's water weight manipulation, because I weigh in, I have 24 hours to rehydrate and all that kind of stuff. So that's all part of the process. But, knowing that I have that in me and I can tap into that, I knew once I figured it out. Now, the question was, what was it going to be, right? I had to figure that out. What was I going to do next? So.
And so you left JP Morgan Chase making $1 million a year.
not quite that much. No,
I'm kidding.
Doing well.
Way into six figures. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know what you were going to do.
No. I was always entrepreneurial.
Have you seen a psychologist for this problem?
For my issues?
I'm just playing.
Yeah,
so dude, that's incredible though, to walk away from such a high-paying job where you could literally spend 20 years there, retire a multimillionaire, and have a pretty decent existence on this planet.
Yeah, one of the things I say all the time, Ken, is I am strategic to a fault. So I'm always thinking out 3 and 5 years. And I say to a fault because while it's good sometimes that I'm thinking that far out, it's to a fault because I'm so focused on that I trip over the curb that's right in front of me.
Yeah.
So I was, in that part of my decision process with that was thinking out those 3 to 5 years and what's this going to look like. So here in Columbus, in Central Ohio, JP Morgan Chase at the time had about 20,000 employees. Yeah. But only 15 people out of those 20,000 were at that level I was going to be at. And a lot of those jobs were IT related jobs, things not in my wheelhouse. So again, what am I going to do next? Right. I'm going to be the next job I take, next position I take, I'm going to be stuck there probably until I retire. And that was not something I wanted to deal with. Again, and so now, okay, they're going to say, okay, well, we want to promote you. We want to do this. We want to do that. But you need to move to New York City, or we need you to go to London. And again, with the kids and all that stuff, it's like, I don't want to have that conversation. The interesting part about having that conversation is when I'm telling people I don't want to raise kids in New York City, they go, well, I was raised in New York City and I'm raising kids in New York City. What's wrong with that? Right. So,
right. Yeah. Didn't mean to offend you.
Right.
Triggered. You triggered them. So you left there, had no idea what you were going to do. You didn't even have a business, like, man, I could sell hot dogs on the, like, nothing.
No, no. Again, I'd always thought about and kicked around the ideas in my head. As a matter of fact, I'd given myself a deadline. When I finished my master's degree, JP Morgan paid for it. And you had to stay 2 years after you finished your degree in order to not have to pay it back. And so when I did that, I said, okay, I've got 2 years to figure out what I'm going to do, what company I'm going to start, what business I'm going to start. And in 2 years, I'm going to leave. As soon as my time is up and I don't have to pay back for my master's degree, I'm going to leave. Well, the time was up in 2008. Well, as you know, right, the economic markets went upside down in 2008.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of cool stuff. So I got tapped on the shoulder to say, we have a problem over here, fix this. Yeah. Oh, now we have a fire over here, go over and fix this. So it was super cool. I was doing all kind of cool stuff. So that I kind of put, leaving there on the back burner for 7 years until 2015 when I finally said, okay, enough's enough. Those two revenue generating ideas that got shelved, I'm like, okay, this is the writing on the wall. These are the signs I was looking for. Let's do this. Let's just make it happen. So
you left there again. You didn't know what you were going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that where I allowed my emotions to control the situation, right? Like, oh, what you're gonna talk to me like that? I'm out of here, and walking out. So, I don't think I've ever done anything as, I mean, you planned it. kinda, but you didn't know what you were going to do, and that is phenomenal. So my hat's off to you. what did you do? So you left there, and then what? What happened next?
So I literally, it's interesting. I never really had a career mentor per se. I mean, I had some people I talked to here periodically, but so I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next, right? And so I ended up talking, a guy that trained with me, one of his friend's dad, who I never even met his friend. He's like, you got to talk to this guy. He's in commercial real estate, veteran, no name around Central Ohio, very well connected. You need to go talk to him. Well, this guy ends up basically becoming my mentor. Tremendous guy. And what we ended up doing was we sat down, and it sounds so logical now, but I'm very disappointed. Looking back now, I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't think of it beforehand, because it sounds so logical. But we went into a conference room in his office, and he had this giant whiteboard that was super wide, probably 10 feet wide. And he started on the left side of the whiteboard, and he said, "What was your first job?" And I'm like, "Okay, when I got out of school." And he said, No. You're the first thing you did that you got paid for. Okay. I honestly, this is going to date me, but I said I delivered newspapers.
Yeah.
He said, "Okay, give me 3 things you liked about delivering newspapers, and tell me 3 things you didn't like about it." Okay. What was the next job you had? Oh, well, I mowed lawns. Oh, well, 3 things, right? We went through every position I'd ever had in my entire career. Started on the left side and worked our way all the way over to the right side of this giant whiteboard. And then he gets done. He steps back and he's like, "Okay, so here, this is common. This is showing up. This is showing up. This, So he says, "Okay, simple. We need to find you a job where you do these 3 things and you don't do these 3 things."
Wow.
And I said, "Okay, well, what the heck is that?" Because again, I didn't even know, what a fractional CFO was. I had no idea. And he said,
"Neither do I."
Right. That's what a lot of people say, right?
We're going to get to that.
Yeah. So he said, "You need to be a CFO for like 6 or 8 businesses." And I said, "Well, how the heck do you do that? Like, being CFO for one business is a 70-hour-a-week job."
Right.
He said, "No, think about it. You're a small business owner, and you're really good at what you do. You're really good at plumbing, or you're really good at creating these widgets, manufacturing these widgets, but you don't have the business background. You don't have the financial background. And so that's limiting your business and your ability to be more profitable, more efficient, et cetera. And so you help them on a part-time basis. So they might not be large enough to where they need a full-time CFO, and they might not be able to afford a full-time CFO either. So you can come in with your 20 years of experience, and they could hire you on a part-time basis." And I'm like, "Geez, that makes a lot of sense. Now that I think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Gee, why didn't I think of that?" Right. And we went through, so he said, "Go get 1 client and see if you like it," because he said it's going to be a big change for you, because your entire career has been all white collar, right? You're dealing with bankers, highly educated people, things like that. And he said, you are going to be dealing with, a lot of blue collar people in most situations. Now, again, going all the way back, thinking of my upbringing of steel mill town. I mean, blue collar is where I came from and what I am, so I'm like, I think I'll be fine. I got that first client. It was about maybe 2 weeks in. I'm driving home from the client, and it was just that aha moment, like it's like, honestly, it was like this. I know for sure this is what I'm on earth right now to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you, how do I put this? How did you convince your first client that they needed a part-time CFO?
It was honestly, here's another funny thing. So I didn't even have a LinkedIn account. Like, I was at Chase, JP Morgan Chase. LinkedIn was the 260,000 coworkers I had, right? I didn't worry about that, because I was assuming that I probably was going to be. So, probably in August of 2015, I'm like, I probably ought to get a LinkedIn account. It seems to be kind of important. So I create a LinkedIn account and I start networking. Like, okay, I've heard of this networking thing. I probably should start doing this. Wow. And that's what happened. It was a friend of a friend said, "Hey man, this guy just lost the GM of his small manufacturing company. And would you be willing to fill in on an interim basis and basically run it for him? He's out of town."
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I sat down with him and he said, "Well, I don't know if I can afford you." And I said, "Well, I just want to get a client. So let's do this." And so, but it was so rewarding for me that and again, not being, not bragging or whatever, I just have a knack for this kind of thing. And I always have. I mean, it drives my wife nuts. I mean, we'll go out somewhere. We'll be walking around Menards or Home Depot or something like that. And I'll be like, why do they have that positioned over there? Like that product ties in with that product. Those should be together, you know?
Yeah.
And my wife's like, I'll go on this 90-second rant and my wife will just be looking at me and she'll say, does your brain hurt? Because like,
dude, my wife does that. She does that. She was in retail forever. And like, she sees that and it makes her crazy. And I'm like, stop.
Right.
Like,
right. But
you don't work for the Home Depot.
Right. But it's like I can't, that's just how my brain thinks. I'm always thinking about new ideas, new potential products, revenue for this type of business. How can you drive more revenue for this type of business? What cost controls do you need to make sure you have in place? I've always sort of had that mindset, and I'm just wired that way. So, it's been very rewarding, especially over the years as I've gotten more and more clients. At first, I'm not going to lie, you wonder, like, can I really help these people? Right. I know I've developed some expertise, but gosh, they're in business already and they've obviously been successful. They've been in business for whatever, 10 years, 12, 15, 20 years. They must be doing something right. So can I really add value? I think I can, but I'm not sure. And so it's so awesome to go in and go, oh my gosh, a lot of times what happens is owners, you get in that, this is the way we've always done it mindset. And so you don't, open up enough, or you just, I've got one business owner that's been a client of mine almost since the beginning, who has a chimney sweep business down in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's been in business for 30 years. And almost every time we meet, he says to me, Ken, where the hell were you 10 years ago? You know how much more money I could have made and how peacefully I could have slept at night if I would have hired you 10 years ago.
That's awesome,
because he's running the business. He's neck deep in the business running it. And it's difficult to have that more strategic vision and think about, again, 3 years, 5 years out, and making sure that the decisions we're making today are congruent with that 5-year goal.
Wow.
Because there's sometimes you can make a short-term decision that makes a lot of sense in the next 6 months, but is not congruent with where you want to be in 5 years.
Right.
So,
right.
Making sure that you've got your head, your mind wrapped around those things, you're thinking about them correctly. But I love it. I love new businesses. I mean, I got some advice from someone who does what I do. He's based in Missouri, found him on LinkedIn. And I just reached out to him. I said, hey man, can I get like 15 minutes of your time, pick your brain a little bit? Got on the phone and he said, here's my advice. Pick one industry or one niche and just be a CFO for that industry or niche. I said, well, why would you do that? He said, Ken, my job is so easy, man. He's like, I only do manufacturing. So I know when I go into a manufacturing company, I have an eight steps I go through with every business. And I have templates built. It's just great, man. And I said, wow. Well, I appreciate that advice, but I'll never do that. He said, well, what? I said, no, part of what I love is the variety. I don't want to just be, a CFO for manufacturing or this or that. I love the variety. When the client I mentioned earlier, the chimney sweep business, when he first reached out to me, he said, you probably don't want to work with me because I'm just a chimney sweep business. I said, I would love to. You need to know that I've never worked with a chimney sweep business. But what I can bring to the table is I have experience that I can bring from other industries, right, that you may not have considered in your industry. And that, as a matter of fact, that happened. We created an idea that I ended up on the stage at the National Chimney Sweep Association presenting this idea that was, sort of breakthrough in their industry that people just hadn't thought about. But so I love that variety. Wow. I love the challenges of each individual business. I don't want the cookie cutter approach. I mean, that's my complete non-accountant side of me that yeah. I like to have that variety and think of the challenges and think about, oh, geez, you know what? We did this over here. Can we do something like that in this industry,
So I have a personal question. It's not real personal. Did you replace your income?
Yes.
Or did you exceed it?
I haven't exceeded it yet. But this year, absolutely the goal for this year. So let me rephrase that. Yes, this year I'm going to replace it.
So when it comes to I'm friends with Grant Cardone and Jeffrey Gitomer and some amazing people, just literally got a text from Mark Victor Hansen while we're talking right now. And, you know, I know a lot of people in these high places. And one thing that I see that's common is they all are looking at scalability. So, and I'm sure you do when you're working with these businesses, but what about you? Because I've found myself personally where it's like, yeah, I want to scale to $100 million enterprise, right? But you know, sometimes you get so caught up in the weeds, of running your business or working in your business, that working on your business is very, very difficult at times. The marketing and the financial stuff and everything. So my question for you is, what about you in scaling your business? A, is it something you want to do? And B, is there a way to do it?
Yeah, so I figured that out, thankfully, a couple of years ago. So, you know, working one-on-one with clients, obviously there's only 24 hours in a day. And so I can only take on so many clients, right? So I see very quickly, there's a limit to my upside there, right? And as well as while that was happening, is I had businesses that were smaller businesses that were coming to me that needed help. And I had to tell them, like, honestly, as your potential future CFO, I would tell you it's not a great financial decision for you right now because you don't have the revenue to support hiring someone like me. So kind of an awkward situation, right? But
yeah, all right.
But I want to be honest with them, right? And I'm like, you know, in the short term, it's going to be painful for you, but you know, we're gonna scale you, we're gonna grow and things like that. But so how can I help those businesses? How can I reach those businesses, scale my time, right, and make it very affordable for them? So what does that look like? And so started trying to figure out how the heck can I do that? And so I helped a couple businesses for free, and you know, that doesn't pay so well. And so trying to figure out how I could do that. And so what I came up with was a continuity model, basically a fancy way of saying a membership, right? An online membership. So that's what Mr. Biz Solutions is. We do Zoom sessions. So I come on and I got the idea from Frank Kern. Frank Kern has an inner circle that is a continuity program. And, you know, I modeled a lot of what Mr. Biz Solutions is off of Frank Kern's model. And so it enables me to scale my time. And the idea was to have sort of one-stop shopping for business owners. And I won't go too far into the weeds on that. I know I don't want to make it sound like an infomercial, but the idea was to have like a one